Live from the slightly twisted deck bar, it's the Poojie Podcast with Justin Lemie.
The Poojie Podcast is proudly sponsored by Cimarron Golf Club, located in Jacksonville, Florida, off County Road 210, just west of St. John's Parkway.
Yes, indeed. Thank you to Cimarron Golf Club for all they do to support the podcast. They do a great job over there off County Road 210. And also, big shout-out to Shores Pub Mandarin having me here inside the bar. Well, it's happy hour till 6 o'clock here any given day, 11 to 6, 250 draft beers. So a great spot to be. Shores Pub Mandarin, the pool table, plenty of TVs, a great spot here in Mandarin, a hidden gem, as I like to call it. So thank you to them. A lot going on in the world of sports. The Miami Heat winning Game 3, bringing that series back to 2-1 against the LeBron-led Lakers. So Game 4 will be tonight, Tuesday night. It could be 2-2 by the time our fans and listeners are listening to this. Hopefully, for Zach's sake, it is 2-2 in that series and a best-of-3 moving forward. Baseball divisional series are underway. The Miami Marlins are playing the Braves right now. Tuesday, today, is a packed day of baseball. It looks like the Braves are going to win the first game in that series. We did have the Astros beat the Oakland Athletics last night, Monday night, as well as the Yankees beating the Rays in a close matchup there, but Dodgers kick off their series against the Padres tonight as well. So all 4 series will begin this evening, or will be happening by the time our fans are listening to this episode. And an interesting week in the world of football. Some COVID flare-ups for the first time this season, but we all could have expected this happening. Pittsburgh versus Tennessee gets postponed till late October. The New England Patriots, Kansas City game gets pushed back to Monday night, which was kind of nice, a 7 p.m. Monday night game. But the NFL seemed to navigate their way through this week pretty nicely. Going to be interesting to see if Cam Newton returns next week. It's going to be weird to see if Pittsburgh is going to play against Philadelphia, what's going to happen, and if there will be any more positive results moving forward, which I think based off the numbers there will be. But that's all I have for the sports update to start off episode 49 of the podcast. Again, thank you to Shores Pub for allowing me to be here. But let's jump into the interview with the panel for the Week 5 NFL preview presented by Strings Sports Brewery. So sit back and enjoy. Yes, thank you to Shores Pub Mandarin for hosting me here to record this episode 49. Look forward to coming back here and hosting many more previews episodes here at the bar. Great place to be. Before we jump into the Week 5 NFL preview, quick discussion. UCF loses to Tulsa for the second year in a row. Tulsa 9-3 against UCF all time, and I know for a lot of UCF fans it's very painful. A few comments on that. If you're a UCF hater, you probably love to see it. The 8-point loss against Tulsa pretty much demoralizes the whole UCF fan base. All we were going for this year was the college football playoff. We felt that was finally our opportunity, the ceiling. But as a UCF fan, we have to understand there are some growing pains. There are a lot of injuries. There's going to be a lot of hiccups on this road, and the more haters we garner, the more success we will have on the back end. So if they hate us because they ain't us, like they say, and we will bounce back from this. If you're a UCF fan, just kind of hang in there and understand that teams lose. It is not normal for teams to go undefeated. Sports is not meant for teams to go undefeated, and we were spoiled with 25-0 back-to-back years. That is not normal. There's only 3 programs that should expect to go undefeated, and that is Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama on any given year. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they are wrong, because sports is not meant to have teams go undefeated. But I'm off my soapbox. Let's get into the NFL World Week 5 preview. A somewhat pretty game, then turned to ugly game against the Cincinnati Bengals for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Had some other exciting matchups this week in the world of the NFL in Week 4. Jacob, if you want to jump in real quick, help me recap Week 4, Jaguars versus Bengals, to the best of your ability.
Well, it was much of the same as last week, I felt, where the offense actually didn't look bad, didn't look awful. I felt that Laviska actually looked even better than he has in a couple of the first weeks. DJ Chark had a couple really, really good touchdowns. Jam Robinson, he still looks like a star. I really hope that this lasts forever. And it comes down to the defense. The defense has just been atrocious. I mean, there's been guys that we've lost on the defense injury-wise in that game. When does Todd Wash potentially, become accountable and maybe get fired? I don't know, but they're letting up, I think, nearly like 30 points a game. If the defense keeps doing that, this offense can do all it can, and it still won't win games. So hopefully the defense picks up.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the teams that the Jaguars have played so far. You have Old Man Rivers in week 1. They overcame some of his scoring, beat the Colts, and then Fitzpatrick week 2. And then, obviously most recently Joe Burrow. And we're making these guys look like superstars in the NFL, and that's not the case. I think Todd Wash definitely needs to be held more accountable. The State of the Union address with the Lot J announcement here in Jacksonville, Shad Khan mentioning that he is looking and analyzing everything from top to bottom. Well, he's had like 8 coaches changes over in Fulham. When is he going to finally pull the trigger on Todd Wash here in Jacksonville? So that's my little EPL plug for the soccer fans here. But Verbin, let's go over to you. You weren't on the podcast last week. I'm going to start calling you Odd Week Verbin because it seems like you're here for the odd weeks. You had an intrigue matchup. I know you weren't on, but you had the Cowboys versus the Browns, which was quite possibly one of the better games of the season. If you like points, it looked like a Big 12 game. Did you get a chance to watch that? What were your thoughts?
In and out, but it was not a good game for defense for sure. Definitely cool to see just the Browns finally utilize, Odell and Landry to the best of their ability there, mixing it up, having Landry throw him like a 30-yard touchdown was awesome. So, I mean, it looks like Odell's finally hopefully getting settled in that offense there because they have way too many weapons to not be using them. So hopefully the Browns can keep it rolling going forward. But yeah, it was a great game.
3-1 for the Browns to start the season. Who would have thought? Definitely playoff contenders and a great victory over a high-powered offense. You also had Lamar Jackson bounces back with 100 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. I know he had like a 50-yard rushing touchdown, so his longest rushing touchdown of his career, which I was kind of surprised by, but at the same time, that's a really long run for a quarterback. So kind of had that one there with the Lamar Jackson rushing abilities. Luke, let's go over to you. You had Titans-Steelers as your intrigue matchup, and obviously that did not get played. But you had Jaguars 27-24, very close as far as the points go. Dolphins play Seahawks tight in cover. That was a pretty close game against the Seahawks there. Miami looked to hold strong in that matchup. What were your thoughts from week 4?
Yeah, I actually don't think the Dolphins look that bad at all. I mean, as a team in general, they've been playing pretty tightly to some good teams like the Bills, the Seahawks, and those teams are really, really good right now. And they obviously steamrolled us, so they did pretty well. And obviously, you can't get more intriguing than just totally missing a game because of COVID. So
very, very intriguing, and we're looking forward to that October 25th makeup date. So I'm sure that's not going to be the last game to get moved. And Luke, what does your whiteboard say back there?
So today we got to pour some out for a dear friend in the AFC South, Bill O'Brien. We're going to miss you, buddy. You traded away DeAndre Hopkins and made the Texans as bad as you possibly could. Pour some out for Bill O'Brien.
He did God's work for us here in Jacksonville, kind of solidifying us as maybe not being the worst team for the near future and totally wasting Deshaun Watson's prime years. So thank you, Bill O'Brien. Rest in peace wherever you may land next and whatever team you might ruin next. DJ Leggett, last but not least, thoughts on the Jaguars' Week 4 game against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals?
Hopping in on that Bill O'Brien take, I think Deshaun Watson's prime years are actually ahead of him. So this choice in head coach, I think, is going to be extremely important to, where the Jags end up, us not being at the bottom because, right now it doesn't look so hot. But as far as going off of that Jags game, obviously the return of DJ Chark is huge for our offense. But I feel like a big narrative that played out on Sunday was the degradation of the run defense as the game went on. Pass catching backs are having their way with us in the last 2 games. Myles Gaskin, someone no one's ever heard of, and now Joe Mixon puts up 150 yards and 2 tutters on us. So not looking good for the Jags. DJ Chark's nice to see back there, but Minshew still looks good. James Robinson still looks good. The future is still bright if we can take care of some of those defensive issues. Pass rush, atrocious. And our linebackers are decent, but not holding up to, I guess, what we were looking for them from the beginning of the season.
And what's your mock draft season countdown looking at right now at 1-3?
So I was tempted to type into Google, mock draft 2021, but I didn't yet. So that officially means, unless any of you guys did today, that officially means it has not started. And that we're still okay.
Mock draft season has not started. Sam, what about your drinks? Where are we at on the drink scale? Are we taking shots? Are we doing stiff drinks, just beers? Where are we at drinking wise?
Still crappy beer, but it's getting there. I haven't gone to the liquor store yet. It's been a while, but
Okay, well, maybe after a loss to the Texans and then the Lions, we'll be sitting at 1-5. Maybe you'll make your way down and get some of that Pink Whitney, that New Amsterdam stuff. So we'll see. We'll see if you can find your way there. But let's look ahead to Week 5. Thankfully, we can move forward to Week 5. Jacksonville versus the 0-4 Texans, and the Jaguars are 6.5-point underdogs. Jacob, what do you see coming up in this matchup against the Texans?
Well, on one side, I'm a little nervous because of how bad our defense has been. But on the other side, I see some hope because the Texans' defense hasn't been that great either. They've let up 31.5 points per game. That's actually worse than the Jags. I can't even believe that. I think James Robinson should have a good game because the Texans' run D is not that great. But until I see anything more from the Jags, it's tough to want to predict them to win the game. So I'm just going to have to go with the Texans this week, 31-27, and hope that somehow Minshew and that offense overcomes Deshaun Watson and the Bill O'Brien-less Texans.
31-27 is not actually a bad prediction. I saw a report earlier. Sam mentioned DJ Chark. When DJ Chark is in the game, the Jaguars are averaging 27 points. The only game he wasn't in against the Dolphins, we got 13 points. But I am excited for James Robinson. Had a 40-yard run last week called back due to a penalty, which seems to be the case. Anytime there's a long run, there's always a penalty. But James Robinson, hopefully this is his coming out party. Hopefully he can pop off in this game. And we saw the Jaguars hold close against the Texans last season in Houston, losing on a failed 2-point conversion by Leonard Fournette, pulling out his best Toby Gerhart impression and not being able to get 2 yards at the end of the game. So let's see if we can hold close this week against a team that's in shambles, just like the Jaguars, if not worse. So 31-27. And Jacob, while I have you here, intrigue matchup for Week 5.
My intrigue matchup is actually going to be within the division. It's Colts-Browns. I think that this is going to be good because they're both 3-1. They're both teams that, we beat them Week 1. We beat the Colts, so I don't think people thought much of them, but they've been rolling now. The Browns, I think, are surprising some people because they've struggled overall. What's really going to be the key is the Browns have the number 1 rushing offense in the league. They did lose Nick Chubb, but guess who they have? Kareem Hunt, who I think can be even better just because he's a great receiver out the backfield. This game's going to be pretty good because I wrote somewhere, I think the Browns are rushing for over 200 yards a game. They have a worse pass defense, so can Phillip Rivers take over? I don't know. But when you run the ball like that, that's how teams win games. So I want to say that the Browns might win it at home and help us out in the division, but that should be a good one. Someone's gonna lose.
Let's see what happens. I'm excited to see if the Browns are legit or not, but also the same says for the Colts. Are they legit or not? So this is going to be a very good matchup to kind of measure that success as far as the first quarter of the season. Let's go over to Kyle Verben real quick. Kyle, what is your intrigue matchup for Week 5? We'll circle back around and do the predictions for the Jaguars game.
Okay, yeah, my intrigue matchup is going to be Bills versus Titans, 2 undefeated teams. Titans coming off their bye week. They've been looking pretty solid this year, but going to be a big test against the Bills. The Bills really have shocked me this year. I don't know if they really were predicted to be in the spot they are right now before the season started, but Stephon Diggs came into this new offense and seems like he's found his home. Josh Allen's slinging it all over the field and is looking like one of the top quarterbacks in the league this year. So I think that the Bills are rolling, and I'm going to be interested to see if they can take one off the Titans for us.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Similar to what Jacob said with the Browns, I'm excited to see the Bills play more and more competition within the league, obviously. They're 4-0 right now, 2 games ahead in that division, which right now it seems like it's only between them and the Patriots. Patriots have won 11 in a row AFC East divisional titles, 16 of the last 17. And that year that they didn't win was the year that Tom Brady went down with an ACL injury. Matt Castle stepped in, and the team still made the playoffs as a wild card. So 17 straight seasons in the playoffs for the Patriots, miraculous by them, 16 of the last 17. Will the Bills be the team that knocks them off that pedestal? Who knows? Let's go over to you, Luke. Week 5 intrigue matchup.
My intrigue matchup for Week 5 is going to be the Bucks and the Bears. It's very interesting watching Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. He looks like he's finally getting his footing. Maybe you just don't even play in the first half. Let him play in the second half. Second half, Tom comes in and starts slinging the ball around. Says, "Sit down, rookie. Let me show you what I got." And meanwhile, Nick Foles, whenever he starts, he doesn't look like he's that good when he's a starter. So maybe they just let Mitch Trubisky start and let Nick Foles come off the bench. First half boring, second half awesome. Bucks Bears.
I like that almost as a sneaky hot take. Let both starters sit down until halftime and then bring them in and just do a 30-minute battle between Tom Brady and backup Nick Foles, who is actually the starter now. But who knows what's going to happen. Great Thursday night football matchup there. Maybe one of the best ones of the season outside of week 1 in the NFL. Going to be interesting to watch that one. Sam, last but not least, your intrigue matchup for week 5.
So, guys, I like the Panthers versus the Falcons. I believe it's in Atlanta, and it's the 0-4 Falcons versus the 2-2 Panthers. I feel like, those should be switched. I feel like it should be the 2-2 Falcons and the 0-4 Panthers. Before the season started, I figured that's what it would be. But, Falcons getting some pretty unlucky breaks. I like this matchup because it could be getting into the hot seat territory for old Dan Quinn down in Atlanta. I mean, 0-4, 0-5 against the Panthers. I could see it happening. Falcons trying to get their run game back on track against a weak Carolina run D. So I like to see Todd Gurley get a couple touchdowns, get his feet back under him. He got some solid fantasy points this weekend. So we'll see how it goes. I like Teddy Bridgewater in the Carolina Panthers uniform. I think a lot of us kind of had some questions about him coming into the season, but he's really taken over. Roddy Anderson, wide receiver 1 in that offense. So let's go.
And you hit the nail on the head there. It feels like roles reversed between the Panthers and the Falcons, almost like the two head coaches went somewhere to a Chinese restaurant, cracked a fortune cookie, and Freaky Friday occurred with their two teams. And we now have the 2-2 Carolina Panthers, who many thought would not find their way to more than 4 or 5 wins this season, sitting at 500 and well in contention in the NFC South as things stand. If they can get to 3-2, the ceiling is the roof for them at this point. So to quote Michael Jordan, we'll see what the Panthers can do with a banged up Christian McCaffrey. They've won 2 games without Christian McCaffrey, mind you. So if they get him back and this offense is clicking, that could be a sneaky team. Maybe got to go look at the sports book to see what their odds are right now to make the playoffs. So we'll see there. But I know, Jacob, we got your 31-27 prediction. You took the Texans. Verben, let's take your prediction real quick. Actually, before we do that, Jacob, your hot take for week 5. And also, what's your biggest surprise been so far through the first quarter of the season?
So my hot take, it's kind of a weird hot take, and it goes along with Sam's intrigue matchup. I want to say that the hot take is that the Falcons win their first game. And that sounds weird to say that that's a hot take because it's the Atlanta Falcons, but they are 0-4. They've had collapses almost every week, just like their previous Super Bowl. I think they don't collapse this time. I think while their defense has been bad, the offense is going to do what it does to keep up and outduel Teddy Bridgewater. If he doesn't outduel Teddy Bridgewater, my God. I think they get their first win at home, and I think they will get back on track. What was your second question you just asked?
The biggest surprise so far through the first quarter of the season.
Biggest surprise. I really want to say just straight off the dome, and it's within our own team, I want to say James Robinson, to me, is my biggest surprise of the season because any given Sunday I could see teams losing here and there. But, this kid came out of nowhere, undrafted out of Illinois State, I believe, and he's outperformed our number 4 overall draft pick by far. And I hope it's real. I hope it lasts forever. He's definitely my biggest surprise of anything I've seen this season just because he came out of nowhere and he's played like a top 10 running back.
Good stuff there. So Falcons get their first win against the Panthers, which, like you said, surprising hot take, but at this point of the season, it kind of is one. And then James Robinson, big surprise. Real quick to recap my week 4, my intrigue matchup, Packers-Falcons, which we just mentioned the Falcons, so Packers won that game. They're sitting at 3-1. I had the Bengals 24-23 over the Jags, so I'm sitting at 3-1. We also have Luke sitting at 1-3. We have Jacob sitting at 1-3. We have Sam sitting at 3-1, and Verbin sitting at 1-3 as well. So Sam and I 3-1, everyone else 1-3 so far in our Jaguar picks. And my take was Lions take Saints to the wire and pull off the upset in Week 4. There was a point in that game where that looked possible before the Saints turned it on and really just put the pedal to the metal and ended up destroying the Lions. Verbin, let's go over to you. Your Jaguar prediction, your Week 5 hot take, and your biggest surprise so far through the first quarter of the season.
Well, I tell you what, this is probably going to be the last Jaguars matchup that I go into with a anywhere near even remotely positive mindset. If we cannot beat a winless Texans team, I am not – you're here to hear it here first. I'm not picking the Jaguars for a single other game this damn season, okay? Like, they either win tomorrow or win on Sunday or that's it. So I think it's going to be 38-34. My hot take for the week is that the Browns keep it rolling with 30-plus points and also keep it going with 100 yards rushing even without Nick Chubb. The surprise for the first quarter of the season is going to be, I think it goes right in with my intrigue matchup, the Bills and Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's a sleeper for MVP candidate this season, having a great season so far. And honestly, I wasn't really a huge fan of his before, this year. And now the more that I've watched him, the more I've been convinced that he's the real deal. So if they can keep it rolling, then I think that they're going to be a great team and a sleeper for the whole thing this year.
I like it. I like it there. And Kareem Hunt, obviously proven in the NFL. A guy Jacob wanted the Jaguars to possibly go after when we had cut Leonard Fournette. Remember, we didn't trade Leonard Fournette because we couldn't get anything for him. James Robinson stepped in and is already more valuable to Jacksonville than Leonard Fournette. So sorry about it, Leonard. James Robinson is the man. And then you have Josh Allen. Biggest surprise. I have to agree with that. He's been a great surprise this first quarter of the season. Luke, let's go over to you. Week 5 prediction for the Jaguars, your hot take, and your biggest surprise so far through the first quarter.
Week 5 predictions for the Jacksonville Jaguars is 34-28. The Texans will win until Todd Wash learns how to play some defense. These are going to be some high-scoring games. Gardner Minshew, as long as DJ Chark plays, he shows he's a very big part of our offense, and without him, we don't score as many points. As long as DJ Chark's in there, I think we'll put up points as well, but 34-28 Texans. My hot take for Week 5, Blake Bortles plays against the Patriots in Foxborough on Sunday. And then my biggest intrigue for the first quarter of NFL, I would say just how bad the NFC East is. NFC least is what they like to be called, and I can understand why. A 1-2-1 Eagles team that looks way out of shape is at the leading for the NFC East. I mean, they just all look bad.
And we're sitting in an era where 7 teams are going to make the playoffs in the NFL, and one of them very well could be a 6-9-1 Philadelphia Eagles team out of the East. So I like that. Yeah, they've been playing awful, and the Cowboys had a chance to beat the Browns this past Sunday, and their defense looks just about as bad as the Jaguars' defense. And I love the Blake Bortles, giving love to the boat. I love that. Do you think he's going to play due to injury? You think he's going to play due to Goff playing bad, or do you think he's going to play because the Rams are going to be blowing out the Patriots?
I think it will be because eventually there's not going to be too much progress from the Denver's offense, and then they know Blake Bortles has already played in Foxborough before. He's played against Bill Belichick already, and they said, might as well throw him in there. He has some more experience. Let's go with the vet.
My bad. I said Jared Goff there, not even realizing it's that Rippin kid. I think is still starting in Denver, but they have a lot of guys there that are just journeymen or just undrafted guys. So we'll see. I would like to see Blake get a few snaps under his belt on Sunday. DJ Leggett, let's go to you. Jaguars prediction for Week 5, your hot take, and your biggest surprise from first quarter of the season.
So Jags, Texans. I got Texans winning 28-24. And Verbin, you're going to be really disappointed because the Texans are going to beat the Jags. It's one of those classic examples where your head coach, who was really terrible, leaves, and everybody gets really excited, and they're like, wow, we can actually play good now. They all play really well, running games on point with Romeo Crennel, their defense, and they end up smacking us. Late game touchdown does not happen with Gardner Minshew for some reason or the other, honestly. If he does, that's great, but he's had struggles against the Texans in the past. He has had some game-winning drives as well, one including almost against the Texans. So that will come down to the wire, but I ultimately think until we win, I'm not going to predict the Jags anymore with this terrible defense. Biggest surprise of this year, I would say, kind of going off Luke's, is the NFC East, terrible. The Dallas Cowboys, I really thought that they were going to be better, and the Falcons, but the Dallas Cowboys, man, they had a high-powered offense, Dak Prescott. The Chargers, too, I thought the Chargers were going to be a much better team. Justin Herbert, he's got all these yards, all these, big plays, but when it comes down to it, the man's 0-3 as a starter. So I think, you kind of see their head coach kind of being like, we don't know if we're going to go back to Tyrod. The reason is because they're not winning with Herbert. So, but besides that, biggest crazy thing to happen this week, I don't know. Let's say Gardner Minshew completely blows it and only has 2 interceptions. It has 2 interceptions and no touchdowns against the Texans, which I don't think, that's why it's a hot take. I don't think it's going to happen. But I'm telling you, they're going to come out to play, them being the Texans.
I like it. I, too, am going to take the Texans as well. But Cowboys-Chargers not being better is your biggest surprise, following up on Luke's NFC East. Lack of talent. They seem to just be playing in a totally different league, not in the NFL. Minshew blows up against the Texans. We saw him do that last year in that London game, just totally collapsed against the Texans there, and his job was on the line. He had an opportunity to win the starting job. Foles ended up coming back in. That is the story of Minshew, though. Is he going to play inconsistent like that week in and week out? My prediction for week 5 is going to be 31-20 Houston Texans. I think the reason Bill O'Brien just got fired, and Sam mentioned the Texans will have that jolt of energy to beat the Jaguars. I think he got fired when he did because they knew they would beat the Jags regardless, and McNair did not want to fire Bill O'Brien after whooping up on the Jags in week 5. He wouldn't be able to justify it, so he said, let's get rid of him now, and that's exactly what they did. My hot take, tough to come up with a hot take in this week. I will go with the New York Jets get their first win against the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray seems to be reeling right now. 2 straight losses to subpar teams, and I think the Jets, as bad as they are, they put up some points on Thursday night this last week. I think they get their first victory against the Arizona Cardinals, and I will also parlay that with Minnesota going into Seattle and beating Seattle straight up. So those are going to be my 2 hot takes, parlaying that into a hot take. Biggest surprise from the first quarter of the season so far has to be, for me, the way that Tom Brady has found his comfort zone in Tampa as quickly as he did. He got Scotty Miller. He's playing like Wes Welker, playing like Amendola, playing like Julian Edelman. He found his slot guy, and he's making the Bucs look like a real threat coming out of the NFC. Got to be in there with the Packers in the NFC championship game. So the NFC is shaping up to be a lot of fun with the Packers. You have the Seahawks, the Bucs enter the field. So going to be an exciting end of the season for the NFC. That's my biggest surprise. Tom Brady and Tom Brady's 5 touchdowns helped me win my fantasy matchup by 1.5 points. Last night, Mahomes could not outscore Travis Kelce by enough, so I got the win there. My bright spot so far in the NFL season, as it is many times being a Jags fan, is my fantasy team. So both teams sitting at 3-1, which is exciting for me. Anything else from you guys before we get going and play some pool and drink some beers over here at Shores Pub?
I'm going to say Heat in 7.
Heat in 7. So Bam comes back and Bam just starts dominating. We got Heat in 7 here. All right, guys. Well, I will let you go. Thanks for jumping on and doing this. Hopefully it's more fun next week coming off a Jaguars victory, but based on the panel's discussions.
This is your last chance, Jaguars, all right? It's your last chance.
For the 5 of us,
anymore.
For the 5 of us taking the Texans, we're losing hope. We are 1 pick away from all going for the Texans in this week's matchup. So maybe next week against the Lions, which would be embarrassing. But anyways, guys, take care. Fans, listeners, not going to worry about doing Poojie Parlay presented by Shores Pub Mandarin today as I went through all the matchups. before this episode, I will get some on Instagram, the Poojie Podcast on Instagram. If you're not following on Instagram, you are missing out. Go there to look at all the picks, all the panels picks summed up and everything, as well as my Poojie Parlay picks, or on Twitter at Poojie Parlay. If you're listening to this, be sure to go subscribe on YouTube to watch the behind-the-scenes footage and the great backdrop here at Shores Pub Mandarin. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to go subscribe on whatever podcast streaming platform you fancy. I am on all of those, the Poojie Podcast on Spotify, iHeart, Google, Apple, all over the place. So until next time, take care. Go enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy a great weekend of sports and go make this world a better place. Thanks.
How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man?
Be sure to follow our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other podcast streaming services, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out unique video elements for each interview.